right, welcome to another episode of Raise 'Em Up, a podcast for parents looking at raising their kids in the faith. And it's fun because this is part 2 of a continuing conversation in chapter 7, A Sticky Bridge Out of Home. And we've got some special guests with us. I'm still here with us. One of our regular hosts is here too.
Hi guys, I'm Jayanne.
All right.
I'm back.
And we have 2 guests with us today.
I'm Alex, and I'm a freshman at Texas State.
And I'm Adam, and I'm a freshman at Texas A&M.
There you go. Yeah. So the fun, we kind of previewed in the end of the last episode that we were excited because we've been talking about this sticky bridge out of the home. And we were going to get to have actual college students talk about this to see whether or not this is all actually true and things like that.
That still doesn't sound real.
It doesn't sound real.
Actual
College students.
Wow.
Yeah, because you guys are both freshmen. And so that's really special too, because it talks a lot about how important the first semester of college is for sticky faith.
Determines everything.
Right? And so, I mean, Jayanne, we've been on this journey with sticky faith for a while now. How would you summarize kind of some of the stuff we're picking up along the way?
So I am loving what we're picking up along the way. Having 2 teenage daughters, right, which you guys know, but I have a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old, and Peyton's going to be a senior in high school next year. And so she will be going off to college soon.
Yeah, she's going to be there.
She's going to be there. and it scares me because right now she's at home. Right. And so I know when she's going to church, and I know when she's volunteering at church, and I know her friends and the things that they're going to do. But in a couple of years, I won't. And my prayer is that she's going to find friends at school that are godly friends that, you know, they're not going to be perfect. I mean, y'all are teenagers. You go off to college.
You meant the word people, not teenagers.
We're young
Y'all
adults.
are people. You're not perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not perfect either.
Right.
So, I mean, I do know those things, but just my prayer is that she's going to find people and she's going to find a church home where she goes to college, and that her faith is going to stick and be long-term. So I'm excited. This chapter was a really good one for me to read, but I'm super excited to have kiddos who are actually living it right now to come back and talk to us.
Yeah, and I'd say to kind of preface Sticky Faith what it is a book written about 2010, 2011. So like just to frame that, I graduated in 2011 from college. So it's kind of about my generation. So everything it kind of says, like I totally get about just the reality I kind of shared with you guys before we even started of about 1 in 2 kids that were active in church or active in youth group, whatever that looks like, 1 in 2 fall away from the faith at some point in college, like all together. Like, and it was super convicting in the first couple of chapters, just hearing the stories of youth who were like leading things in their youth group and then falling away just in the first semester even, and things like that. And just even hearing that, like, what do you guys think? That was 10 years old. That was ancient, you know? So is it still resonating today?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at the kids now they have the ability to go to church. Everyone has the free will to go to church. But if you're trying to get kids to go, they're not being under the wing of their parents, and they're not being able to be followed and give that wisdom. If you go to church somewhere and you like it, you love it, your parents are going to give that guidance and that wisdom to you that church, that was a good church. That was a good church service. Like, oh yeah, I agree. I think that's what church should be like. Versus now when you go, you're going to be judging how you feel about a church on your own. And that's hard. So
Yeah. Trying to find like what you like, and just like worldly things get in the way. Like schoolwork. Oh, I want to go hang out with friends instead. And then like not having people to go to church with. So like you just sit by yourself. So it's like, I don't want to go to church because I don't know anyone.
Oh, sure. Well, that's like a huge thing. Like I know there's been a lot of conversations about Generation Z, which are you guys technically Gen Z or are y'all still millennial? I'm technically
Gen Z.
millennial. I think y'all are Gen Z. I think like a couple of years older than you is like the end of the millennials or something like that. So it's one of those things one of the things we've recently observed about Gen Z, and I've got to talk about it actually. This past fall we had a kind of Zoom, I don't know what it's called, but like a panel. I was on a panel with Concordia Publishing House about Gen Z. And I kind of threw it to the other people that work primarily with Gen Z. And it was from experiences of doing what we called class reunions this year, of bringing back the high school classes because of how disconnected we got over the pandemic. Because y'all's class was super strong in youth group last year. And we're kind of seeing the aftermath of it this year. But one of the things I'd asked was, is this true for your generation that there's really no such thing as a leader anymore? And they were kind of like, yeah, what leads us is the crowd. Where are my people? What are people doing? And that's really going to motivate me to go. Do you guys see that play out even at the
Yeah.
college level?
I think cliques have formed even more
Oh,
than
yeah.
ever. So if you have your group of 5, 6, maybe less people that are doing their
Mhm.
things maybe on Saturday night, Friday night, or whatever, they're skipping their classes on in the mornings because it's 8 a.m.'s classes or whatever. But if that's what they're doing, that's what you're going to do as well because you feel like that's acceptable. You feel like that's the social norm at the time, and so that's where you're gonna immerse yourself, and that lifestyle just slowly becomes habit. And so if you get used to like skipping a class, for example, because it's just an easier class or whatever, you're just slowly going to start skipping that class. Oh, I'll just do it one time. Well, that's not just one time.
Right.
One
That's
time
that's the next week
becomes
because it's just one
next.
class. Oh, it's just 2 classes, and then all of a sudden I think for a lot of things, honestly, a lot of like addictions and all that other stuff. But it's slowly becoming a thing
Yeah.
where you just start skipping stuff because
Yeah.
you'd rather be sleeping.
Well, and I know like years ago when I was in college, long, long time ago, right? Your professor's not taking attendance.
Right.
Nope.
Nobody's sending a note to your mom. Your mom and dad aren't getting an email.
Yeah.
Hey, Jan was marked absent in these classes today. So you don't have that accountability. And when you go off to college, and I even lived at home and didn't have that accountability. But when you're away, right, from your family, then you don't have somebody poking their head in, making sure your alarm went off or making sure
Mhm.
you're at home and ready for bed.
Making you
and-
pancakes or
Right.
For real.
Well, and like it's funny as you were talking about skipping that class. Like I had a recurring nightmare or it was a dream, whatever you want to call it. I'd call it a nightmare when I was in college and seminary. That somehow I was like halfway through the quarter or the semester and realized there was a class that I was registered for that I wasn't attending, and I was like terrified because I was going to be failing it. Yeah, that was like a regular thing for me.
sounds horrible. I'm so
Why
sorry.
would you have
His
that?
face,
It's
you've
like
now
I guess like
implanted
when
that.
the grade came out, it was like 0. I was like, I didn't
0.
know I was in that class. You know?
Wow,
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's a first. I haven't heard that one before.
You haven't heard that one? Well,
Thanks,
now you
Pastor
have.
Lee.
Well, and so y'all were talking a little bit about in the last episode, or I guess, yeah, this is what do you call this? It's a 2-parter. So yeah, the part 1 of this episode.
This is like real life application.
Exactly. Well, we each got to share. So Keith Gedeke, who
Mhm.
went to school way back in the day, and then Melanie Schultz as well, got to share our own experiences of trying to find faith, trying to find places to worship and things like that when we were in school. Like, and so our listeners have probably heard that episode now, but I'm curious, like, what has that journey been like for you guys? You kind of mentioned it, having to find things and like things for yourself. But what is the journey of finding a faith community or trying to pursue your faith in college look like?
It's hard. It's really hard because most people, for me at my college, don't have faith. And they're all about going to the parties, going and hanging out. And I'm like, I try to invite my friends to the church that I go to, which I don't really like because it's not what I'm used to. Like, I'd rather have a church like Trinity that has the traditional and the contemporary service, but all of it's like non-denominational or Catholic
Oh,
out,
wow.
like in San Marcos or like Presbyterian. And I'm like,
Mhm.
nah, no. And I'm like, and I was in a sorority that was Christian based, but I had to drop it, more like got kicked out, but which was cool because I didn't attend things because I had school.
Oh,
So
sure.
it's like trying to balance faith and school is really hard. And it's like, and some people told me about churches out in Austin. I'm like, that's a 30-minute drive
Yeah.
compared to the church that I go to. That's a 5-minute drive.
Oh,
So
sure.
I'm like, do I go to a church I don't like or try and find another one that's 30 minutes away? And I'm just like, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, have you found, because I know I got to reflect on my time in college, and I was like, back in the day of Facebook where you could really search things on Facebook. So I like was able to filter out who goes to Birmingham Southern College and who called themselves Lutheran, right? Because back in the day, you could put that as your thing. And so I found there were 9 people at Birmingham Southern that were also on Facebook that also called themselves Lutheran. And I messaged all 9 of them. And like one of them eventually responded to me that was LCMS. And we kind of talked. She was an upperclassman. I was a freshman, and it was like, hey, can we be church buddies just so there's accountability? But even then, like it was tough. So I also like looked into campus life. Like, so have you been able to look into Christian organizations on campus or anything like that? What's the experience there been?
There's only about 2.
Okay.
And one of them is like a frat, which is boys and girls that can join. And I haven't gone to that. And I know there's a church on campus or like a ministry type thing. I'm not quite sure what it is. And I don't know what denomination it is because it just says like United Ministry of Christ or something.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
I don't know what that is, but maybe I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Or I'll just keep going or like keep searching for a church. It's all about searching, I guess, and finding what you really like. But other than that, I mean, I'm still like connected because it does help a lot because college is stressful.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hard. But if you like just do your own thing and like keep reading, praying, listening to that Jesus music, I don't know. That helps me a lot.
And I know you talk to your mom a lot and send her
Yes.
songs because
Yes.
she was sharing. Alex and her mom both volunteered in kids ministry, and so I love when
Love
Alex
it.
comes back and can come join us. But I know you guys share music with each other, right?
Yes.
Because she was sharing a song that you sent to her the other
Gratitude?
day. So I think yes, that's what it was.
That song makes me cry.
That's what she said. She was like, "Just be careful when you listen to it."
You might cry. Yes.
But you and your mom still have a really close relationship,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm. She's my best friend.
That's awesome. And it's super helpful because, again, I think what you're describing is what we kind of understood as we read through chapter 7 too, you know? So
Mhm.
like that experience of how tough it is and trying to figure it out and trying to find it. And yes, there are different options, but it's also familiar. It's also new. And it's because like life is new. Like I remember, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if y'all would remember this, but I tell seniors all the time, you know, when they're high school seniors, like life gets so much better in college, you know, because of the freedom, right? You have so
Yes.
much more freedom, whether that's time and schedule and things like that. And to some extent, that's a blessing.
Oh,
Right. And that's what we read
No.
in this chapter was like the reminder of, oh, but you have to learn what that means and all the different
time
pieces that go with that.
management.
Yeah, that was a big one they talked about,
Ugh,
time and money.
Time management.
Time
Yeah.
and money. Yeah.
Time and money, managing that.
Oh,
Adam, where are you landing with all this?
So going to a new town, it's really hard to find like a church. And so I wish if I could have made my ideal situation and thought ahead a little more, I wish I could have taken a few weekends and driven up with my family and then did a little family hunt or church hunt with my family. Because I feel like that would have made me more
yeah.
comfortable, made me go with people that I love and, you know, confide in. And I can see, like I said, their side of the story and be able to just start myself versus me doing it. I think that would have made that transition a little bit smoother versus, you know, like cold turkey, not like just that's it.
yeah.
You go do yourself.
Mhm.
But as far as like stuff on campus, I'm a part of a flow. It's called FLED. It's
I was
flow.
like, is
So
it
flow
the,
is
the hair? Is that why the hair is so long?
no, it's freshman leader organizations.
Okay.
And so you apply to one and you get, there's a big application process, interview process, and then you get put into one if you get accepted into it. But inside of the flow, we've kind of developed our crew that goes to church. There's Breakaway. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have. Yeah.
Breakaway at A&M. So we have a crew that goes to that Tuesday nights. And then we also have a crew that ends up going to like certain church services around campus. And so we kind of split apart and then go to wherever else we want to. And wherever you want to go, there's somebody going there. So you're able to just jump along with them. So that's been very helpful. It's made the transition a little bit easier from going to, finding a place on your own.
Yeah, one of the things that you reminded me of from this chapter, which I thought was a great idea, was one of the pieces of advice it had for senior parents was actually, because sometimes school is really far away. Like A&M is how many hours away?
50 minutes.
50 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
3 hours.
3 hours, right? And my college was 4 hours away. So me going to Birmingham to try out churches and stuff, especially like, what am I going to do? Go like 8 different weekends on a 8-hour round trip, right? So one of the pieces of advice that they had, which I really appreciate, I'm just seeing what you guys would think about this, was in the senior year or in the summer before off to college, letting parents and students go together to visit churches in their area. So like around here in spring, just to see what it's like to visit a place that's different than you grew up, to say like, what did you like? What did you appreciate? So to learn that process of what it means to try out a church rather than just like the baby bird falling out of the nest, which is maybe how that felt.
The question that rose for me was, what is it about a church that should be something that I don't like? Is it wrong to have something that you don't like about a church? And I guess the answer to that is, I don't really know, but if it's about Jesus in the way it's given to you, then you're just being fed, and it's the way you can accept it. And it's not the fact that maybe you just don't like it. It's maybe just the way you learn. But then there's also the ways where you don't like it because maybe it's just the wrong, you don't fit in the congregation, if that's a thing.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's kind of just not the right
fit
vibe.
Yes, vibe.
But
the right fit.
Yeah, for me, like the church that I go to, I see myself liking the worship, but I don't like the sermon that's being given by the pastor. And I feel like you should like both of them together, because sometimes I'll like the sermon that the pastor's giving, but the worship music isn't there for me. And so I'm like, where would I find one that goes good together?
Yeah, and that's where I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they were in a similar situation where it's like, I like this here and I like this here. And I was kind of like, do they meet at the same time? And they're like, no. I was like, well, then go to that one and then go to that one and go to that one and go to that one. I mean, not every week, but I mean, at least like get your flavor of each thing. You know what I mean? That's another opportunity you have. Cause like, I know for me, like I remember, and again, the listeners are gonna be like, Pastor Lee, we already heard this. But like we had RUF on campus that was kind of it was Reformed University Fellowship, so Presbyterian. But I didn't know because it was called RUF, and I was like, that's a weird name. I just didn't know what it meant, But that was the place where everybody was on a certain night of the week. I don't even remember what it was anymore. But like to do basically singing some songs and then the message. And it was like both of those things you talked about were true for me. Like I enjoyed the singing and people were good at it and there was some energy. And then I also really enjoyed the guy talking. I really loved how he got into the word, And so I actually, like my freshman year, was super involved in that and even went in the winter, like January or February, on a retreat, and that's where I learned they were Presbyterian. And I was like, the guy's name was Tom. I was like, Tom, am I allowed to be here? I'm Lutheran. He's like, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. That was the kind of like cautious I was. But meanwhile, too, like I hear what you're saying about the fit or the vibe too, because Meredith and I, my church buddy, we went to a church and we loved it. We enjoyed the worship. We enjoyed the pastors. Well, that's right. We got a new pastor by the end of it. We loved the second pastor we got, but the first pastor for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, like we would come like 3 or 4 weeks in a row and he would be like, oh, well, last week there was a couple of students from UAB here. And by week 4, we realized he was talking about us. Like each week, he forgot us every single week. And so it made us feel like, yes, this was good for us. And I think we were both mature enough to say we can come back here. But there wasn't we love seeing you, Leah and Meredith type getting to know that was really, really tough for us. And so it was easier to miss, whenever, and that happened plenty, right? None of us are perfect. And so whether it was staying out Saturday night or other duties or having a study group that wanted to meet on Sunday morning, like whatever it was, always ended up pulling us away from things. Yeah. So I'm thinking of other things in this chapter. So one of the things is I thought this was interesting because I don't know that I resonated with this one, but I'm curious after hearing you guys talk about time, money, time management, school, freedoms. It said most college freshmen do not feel prepared for college. So like I want you to ask this question. From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fully prepared, no problems, and 1 being I am not prepared at all. This is terrifying.
Not academics.
Well, just college in general, the
Like
college
life.
experience that
Life.
you have, life after
Yes.
high school. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm curious where you're at now. And then I'm also curious where you were on the way to college, right? And has that number gone up or down in feeling prepared for college?
I'd probably start off on the way, like the transition. I would say I was probably at like a 7 or an 8. I honestly transitioned from like being fully prepared, and I mentally prepared myself and knowing that I was going to have to be doing my own laundry and like
Yeah.
that type of stuff, and needing to go figure out when I'm going to eat, because it's not just going to be, hey, dinner's ready. um, and making time for that. But I was able to transition fairly well. And I think it's also because of where I was just on campus and just like the environment that I was put into. If I had to do it again, I'd do the exact same thing. Um,
How pivotal were your parents in helping you prepare for that? Were they pretty big on saying, okay, you need to start doing this? Or were you just one of those fantastic kids that on your own was like,
no,
Yeah. What got you to that point?
Yeah.
it was, I feel like my parents, they listened to what I felt like I needed to do and felt like I needed to prepare. They gave me advice. I had Amanda as well, my oldest sister, who's been through it, the exact same thing, even though she was much further. But so I had her advice about, you should do this instead of this. You should do this type of laundry hamper instead of this type of laundry hamper. You should put your clothes like this and pack them like this. And so that was so much helpful because That was so much help because it made it more comfortable, that aspect of it. But my parents, they knew that I was getting older and I wanted to do things in a way that I kind of had a plan. And so I made a plan, and then they listened to that plan and helped me with that plan and provided me with the things I needed to do to accomplish that plan. And that made the transition so much easier, having supportive parents.
So I'm realizing I was in your boat because I was the third child, right?
Mhm.
And so I got to watch too. And I'm sitting here, and for those that are listening or not seeing this, but Alex is like shaking her head and completely lamenting over this because she's the first one to go off. And so, what's your experience then? And where was that number for you? Has it changed? And what was your preparation for college?
So, like, in my mind, before I got there, I felt like maybe I was an 8, like I was prepared.
Yeah.
But then once I got there and like stepped foot on campus and parked my car, I was like at a 4. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like that whole first week, I was calling my mom almost every day because I was like, Mom, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared. I was crying. I was like, because like the transition, like my parents helped me so much, and they're like, you're the first one, and college was a whole different ball game
Exactly.
when they went to college, because they're like, this is all new to me too, because like I don't know what I'm doing either. So honestly, I don't know, like, because the whole preparation, I was ready to go to college and I was excited to be in a new town away from my parents. But once reality hit me, I was like, oh, I'm on my own and I'm with another girl who's on her own, and like we don't know what we're doing. Like when are we gonna eat? When are we gonna do laundry? Where are we gonna go to class? Because we didn't know where classes were.
Oh, wow.
That's what good
So-
said about that. Like, when do you want to go eat? You want to go eat now? 10
Yeah.
minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Dude,
now?
I love
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
like there was the whole
Like-
wait, so like I can go to eat at 11 o'clock at night?
I have this
That's
thing
what
that just
we
like
would do.
swipes me in.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would like forget to eat because it was just
Yeah.
like life happened, and it's just like homework, like friends, other activities that were going on. It's just like a whole different life and a whole like new perspective of life, because we didn't know what we were doing, because we were both the first ones going into college, and like her dad didn't go to college in the US. So it was like a whole
Oh, wow.
different, yeah, he was like, this is weird. Like y'all have like this and this and this. And she's like, yeah. So it's just like, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on this.
Probably not.
Okay. But it's just like, you know what I'm thinking, like blank show kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so that's like how it felt, because it's just like a whole tornado.
Chaos. A lot of chaos.
Like,
That's probably
yes,
the best word you can use.
Yes, sorry. But like that was the only like word to describe it, like for me,
Yeah.
because it's just like,
No, but that's real, right? I mean,
yeah, that's like that's what I was feeling at the
Yeah.
time. It was just like still how I'm feeling at the time, because like new semester's about to begin.
so. But did it get better as the semester went on?
Yeah, less phone calls, except for like last week when stuff went down. The
Yeah.
car.
Oh yeah.
My car broke down.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to get a new car.
That's real. Wow.
Yeah. I was like crying.
No, but this is good, right? We're hearing two different experiences, and so I hope there's a parent listening too. Well, Jan's
Oh,
probably
I'm,
going,
I'm like, I'm like going, okay,
Oh.
Alex, next year, Peyton is calling you.
exactly.
Seriously,
No,
I mean,
seriously.
I got
Like, I
her.
think that's a big takeaway I'm hearing is if your kid's going off and they're the first one, find them a college student
Yeah,
that's
'cause
been
we
through
have
it
no
that
idea.
knows
Yeah.
that can walk through because
Don't
it'll
worry,
be a
I
whole
had
lot
no
easier.
idea either.
Even-
Still don't
even-
know what's going on. College is crazy.
Seriously, for us, just the process of choosing a college and even thinking about, where to
Choosing a
go. And
college.
I went to they have these meetings for parents, and I went to the
Yes,
meeting, and they're
for a
talking about
lot.
SATs and ACTs. I'm like, wait, she has to take those now?
I
We-
didn't even take
We
an
didn't
SAT.
know.
You didn't even take it?
I didn't take an SAT.
Those tests are so frustrating.
They're
Yeah, well,
stupid.
Now we're learning
Sorry.
there are
Right.
some colleges that
Don't-
they don't require them
You can do
right now.
portfolios. you
Right.
can
So
do-
it's a
yeah.
whole.
So for
I have no idea.
the
There was
co-
one test when I went to school.
Right.
the COVID year, it was for when I
Yeah.
applied, it was
Me
no test
too.
scores. So you
Wow.
you submitted everything you wanted to, and if you didn't submit your test scores, it was fine. They would just review you holistically.
Yeah,
So that was amazing because I was horrible at the ACT and SAT.
me too.
I don't think they measure your capability. I think they just measure how well you take the test.
Right. And I have a kid that's a very good test taker. So I'm
So
like,
that's-
huh.
Scholarship
not-
money.
Yes, that's why I'm like,
Exactly.
yes,
Yes.
we're going to take those.
Take it
Absolutely.
for
I took
scholarship
those
money.
as often as I could to try and raise my scholarships
Yeah.
as best I
I
could.
didn't even
Yeah.
try because I'm bad at test taking.
They
I
were
got
rough.
into college with my GPA.
That's all you needed.
I want to dive into some of this stuff a little bit deeper, but I kind of want to wrap up with some of that too. Before I get there, the other thing that was kind of intriguing for me that I didn't really think about because I don't think I remember it really clearly because when I went to college, we were starting a football team. And so my first 2 weeks are just an absolute blur of workouts, eating, and like that was camp for the most part, and then orientation. So I had a pretty good first 2 weeks. But one of the things this book points out that I think is so fascinating is how impactful or influential the first 2 weeks of college are and the decisions that you make, particularly when it comes to studying, partying, alcohol, things like that. And so people that have never in their lives before drank, choosing to do that in your first 2 weeks and not really having a game plan, it changes, like it defines a little bit of how it carries out. As two college freshmen, and feel free to be like, well, my friend, right? How have you seen that play out with college freshmen? I mean, do you find those first 2 weeks were that had that kind of
Influential.
influence on the rest of the semester so far?
Well, I mean, the people around me and the people that I've seen, I know probably 15 kids that got MIPs, minor possessions, in the first like 2 weeks of school. And it's just because it's that freedom that you guys were talking about. And they just didn't know what to do with themselves because they had so much time and they get invited to go do something like this. And so it's just like, oh wow, this is so much fun. And then they're young, they're mature. And so that was kind of the biggest thing that I saw was just, officers everywhere because they're waiting for that and because they know it's going to happen. And so keeping those kids accountable for the decisions that they make was actually kind of eye-opening for me because I was like, I'd look out the window, I open it up and I'd see an officer searching that person's car, an officer searching that person's car. And it's rightfully so because it's illegal. And so it was interesting the whole first 2 weeks for me.
And thinking about that, do you feel like those 2 weeks have been definitive for those people?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I know one of the kid I know pretty close, not pretty close, but I know him well enough and stopped everything that everything that happened. And then that after he got that MIP, he's changed everything since. He's been going to classes ever since. He's changed his whole behavior. He's studying more. He's spending more time where he should be. And
So that accountability, those police
within the
officers
2
being
weeks was
there.
helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did.
Yeah, I
That's
hear that.
good.
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah, because I'm thinking had that not happened,
Oh, sure.
then probably we're looking at a whole different kind of
yeah.
yeah.
And he was an engineer as well. And so the whole entry into a major at
Right.
A&M, so you have to have that GPA in order to get you into the specified field of major that you want. He may not have made it to that point.
Right.
But luckily, he did, and so or he is actively still working on that.
Yeah. So
So-
those consequences were a positive
Absolutely.
for
Oh,
him.
that's good. The
Yeah.
accountability. Alex, what is your experience? Those first 2 weeks and how definitive were they for?
Well, Texas State's known as a party school, so like,
Wait, what? Really?
shocker, right? Yeah.
You haven't seen that at all while you've been there.
No, not at all. No, but like the whole first week, since there was no class, there was probably parties every night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. It's a wow. And people would people that I didn't even know would probably like text me and be like, "Hey, do you want to go party? Do you want to go party?" I'm like, "No, I want to sleep." Like, cause like parties don't start till like midnight. I'm like, that's
Oh,
insane.
wow.
I'm like, no, and like,
Nothing good happens after. I'll go 2 a.m., but
Oh,
like
that's
particularly
generous.
midnight.
Yeah.
no, yeah. And Texas State's kind of sketch, low key, because there's bad stuff happens there, and people like would just go out every single night, even like once school started.
Well,
They
so
would
that's
go
the
out.
question. Yeah. So
Yeah,
the,
they
the
would
ones
go-
that went out all the time in the first 2 weeks, are they still going out?
Yes, and they would still go out, and even if they got caught by the cops, they would keep with those habits because they're like, I don't care. I'm not here for class. I'm here to have
Hmm.
fun and experience
Wow.
like the college experience,
college
but without
experience.
the academics.
Gotta have the college
So
experience.
was that attitude like with Adam's case? He talked about how they got caught in the first 2 weeks and we were good. Was it that they got caught after the 2 weeks or in the 2 weeks and it still didn't matter?
all the time.
All of it, just both of them.
Yeah, and
Wow.
like I'm hoping people would change after that, but they don't care because they're here for the party, not for the
Which I'm going like,
School.
it's so much cheaper to just be there for the party. You know, like don't do the
Yeah,
school
I'm like-
part. Like I've
Do you
kind of
hear-
be smart about it.
because
like,
I've seen
girl.
people also choose like they'll choose a D1 school so they can go watch the sports. And I was like, you do know you
could
don't
just
have to
live
be
there.
a student to go to watch D1 sports.
But the
Right?
student
Yeah.
section.
But the
The bracelet that you can.
Yeah, right. Exactly. the
Texas
bracelet.
State football is not there. We suck.
But it
But
is
you're
funny. like-
close. You can drive to Austin and go watch a game.
Austin's not much better.
No.
They're all.
They didn't. Yeah.
All right, so that's interesting. So that's so true though, and so that's what
Yeah.
is part of the advice was for parents to like
Yeah,
talk
and,
about the importance of the 2 weeks.
I've-
You know,
I'm gonna add
yeah. Go
something.
ahead.
and like that was reflecting on me and like my experience, and that's why I was gonna transfer to A&M because I was noticing that people didn't care about going to school, going to
Hmm.
class, and their grades. And I'm like, I actually want to be challenged in school.
Yeah.
And like it was making me want to skip class because
Wow.
I didn't want to go
Huh.
at all because people and like the teacher or professors, sorry, the professors were like, they weren't, my professors right now weren't that good. And I was just like, I don't want to go to class. And like, they were kind of rude too. And I was like, when I went to A&M and toured, I went to one of Emma's classes and they were actually engaged. And I was like, what am I missing?
Hmm.
Because people influence you.
Yeah.
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So would you say the people that, the ones that were like going back a little bit, the ones that were going to those like every night, the parties every night and living that lifestyle, were those the people that in high school they were doing that same lifestyle? Were they the ones that beforehand were the ones that weren't at all and they were
probably.
sheltered? I don't know.
Yeah, I
but
know
like
what you-
they were living under their parents
Mhm.
and now they just changed completely, or was it just kind of keep going?
Probably just keep going because
Okay.
I talked to some of those people and they were like, yeah, like I would do this in high school,
Mm.
like because they didn't care.
Yeah.
So like, I wouldn't say people that didn't care about high school went to Texas State because they knew it was a party school,
Mhm.
but that's kind of the majority.
Hmm.
That's there.
And I'd say both happen. I certainly saw both happen when I was going through. There was a
Mhm.
layer of I was always the good kid in high school, and now I'm gonna not be the good kid because I don't have to be the good kid.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that kind of rebellion factor. And again, if in the 2 weeks, if that's how you fit in, like that's what one of the early chapters. So actually, the first time I read this book was last spring when you guys were graduating. So I was
Wow.
I know forever ago, right? But I
Sounds
was
like
Good old days.
Good
I was
Good
walking
old
through this book,
days.
and grad party season came around, and I saw people who are now graduating from college. And one of the things that it said that blew my mind, because it wasn't me, but I always tell people I'm a bad youth pastor because I didn't get into the things that everybody else did. So I was like, I didn't have as many. I'm not perfect. Like, don't get me wrong on that, but I didn't make some of the dumb choices. But that was because I had older siblings that helped me see what choices not to make. And so one of the stats it gave us was that students in college will spend more money on alcohol in a given year than books. And I think like regular
Yeah.
groceries and stuff like that.
I'd never go grocery shopping.
Dining halls.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha. Well, and I think like that was the thing was there was just so much money spent on alcohol
Yeah.
because that's how people
I
interact with
see
each
that.
other.
Yeah.
Well, socially, right? That's
Yeah.
where,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that still resonates here a decade later?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mhm.
Wow. That's just so
And it's
interesting.
not like even at parties either. People like, because there's fake IDs. Whoa, crazy. And like people just like buy alcohol, like just to like casually.
For the night,
Yeah.
just to have for the evening.
Yeah.
And then they'll wake up in the morning and then hate themselves because they have a class.
Oh, sure.
But then do it all over again.
But then they don't go to class. and then
Oh,
they do it,
wow.
and so
They
it's-
do all over
yeah.
again.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's interesting though. That was one of those things that I was like, that's so fascinating to me. And I think
Oh,
it is that
totally.
freedom and that,
Yeah.
oh, I get to do that now.
But now the
Yeah.
books cost less and less because they're all going electronic and you can find them all online. It's even,
I
And
don't
that's
even
what-
use
even
your
more
books,
money
though.
is just like,
that's
I
what
don't even
last
use
year's
my
group
books.
told me too.
yeah, like Cengage or
Oh, sing.
WebAssign or all that stuff.
What?
But the things you have to buy, like the online stuff, the
Oh,
textbooks
I know.
and
Yeah.
the homeworks and all
I have
that.
so much to learn.
Well, that's the good thing is
Don't buy textbooks.
don't buy it until over classes start.
Yes.
So like,
Because I
syllabus week
dropped
is a
way
real
too
thing.
much money that I could have had
Yeah.
saved.
Because
that I
your,
could
your
have
professor will
used.
tell you the first day of class, oh, by the way, don't buy the books. We're just going to,
See,
you know,
my
just use this.
professors didn't
Oh,
even
wow.
do that.
So.
They're like, buy the textbook. We'll use them.
Oh, well,
Liars.
That's unfortunate.
Liars.
But I want to circle back because
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said circle back. I'm going to go back because you said you were talking about transferring,
Yes.
but
Bud.
are you transferring?
I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
I might not. I don't think I am.
Okay.
Because I was thinking to myself, I can't base my first semester, even my whole first year, because I'm still taking general ed. I haven't gotten into my major specific
Sure, yeah,
classes
different
yet.
experiences.
And I was like, if I don't like the professors who are in my major specific classes, then I'm going to transfer.
There you go.
Those general specific majors those classes are the worst because you have a bunch of people in a room that all they want is an A, so they're gonna or just actually a C and better.
They just want to
See,
pass.
Just want to
get
pass,
degrees.
and so they
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm going to circle us back to talk about like one of the things like that this chapter really made known is just how many changes there are, like how different life is from high school to college, and some of the different things, like certainly the spiritual life, right? So you don't have that same home church that you've known for a while now. Most students, right?
Mhm.
You don't have the same. You have to learn what it means to make new friendships,
Mhm.
right? And not just have the same
Scary.
friendships that are there. Time, how do you manage that? Money, how do you manage that? All of a sudden, my meal account's all the way down to zero. How did that happen, right? Different perspectives. So encountering a whole lot of people with different perspectives than the people that you grew up around. Loss is a really big emotion it talked about, like the loss of things and grief. Is a part of that transition. And then certainly like how you experience certain lasts before you go. So last times to spend this time with friends or last
Getting
family meals or
emotional.
things like that. And the family
Goodness.
dynamic when you come home, right? All these different things. So my question for you is you hear all of that and all the different changes. What advice do you have? And we'll talk about different groups, okay? So what do
Okay.
you have advice-wise for students? What advice do you have for parents? And what advice do you have for the church? Right? So three
Church.
different groups. Students,
Church. Oh my
parents, and the
God.
church, thinking about all of that change that you've experienced. And maybe it's something particular that you're like, yeah, I wasn't ready for that. Like, but yeah, any of those groups, I'm gonna let you guys loose.
Okay. Going to students, I guess first.
Yeah.
If in regards to what university you attend, you got to know what you got to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you're going for a major, mostly that's probably the first thing that you may be emphasized in is you want to go for this major. So you know this school is good for this major or something like that. A lot of people say turn away from going with where your friends go and where the crowd goes. I say go where the crowd goes sometimes. I think that's a nice thing. Having and moving into that life, you know, with my roommate Sam, and you know, being my best friend throughout high school, and staying my best friend, being my roommate, and having him as a friend to stay through it all. But that's just me. I've heard people that say that they hate, you know, going where their best friends are going or going where the crowd goes. And so that will really just depend, honestly. So that's the hard one for students is picking the university and making sure you go in the right way. You have anything for students? Like you're just so much.
Yeah, what's the advice for students?
Don't be hard on yourself.
Nice. Give yourself grace. Good.
Yes, don't be hard on yourself because I was hard on myself and there's no point. You just need to relax because you'll make mistakes and you'll learn from them. And just, it's not worth it to be hard on yourself. There are times where you do need to be hard on yourself if you're like getting too relaxed and you need to attend classes because I've been there and it doesn't do you well. It doesn't do you well at all. And I think what Adam said, like picking your college, tour a lot of colleges because it'll help you like figure out where you want to be and like the vibe.
Yeah.
It'll give you the vibe. Because you'll know when you feel at home. Because I thought I felt at home at Sam Houston, and then I went to Texas State, and I was like, nope, this is a better fit.
Okay.
So,
what are those things that like float, like on the parking lots, like they go up and down? What are those things called?
Oh, the noodle things.
The noodle things.
Oh, okay.
I think
like your emotion just
Sorry,
bringing the
I'm like-
picture.
I'm-
yeah.
I was trying to like,
Yeah,
but those I would say like flexible.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There you go.
I was like, Adam, where
We like
are you
that.
going?
That's where I'm going with that. Okay, be flexible,
flexible.
because you think that you're gonna
have
have
another thing.
all this like laid out for you and it's gonna go this exact way. It is not gonna go the way you want it to go. And so going once you make that turn and being flexible and
Yes.
you may not get the hall you want to live in. Well, that's just unfortunate. Like you can't resonate that
sucks
because
for you, but
how many seconds are in a day? You know, if you lose 10 of those seconds, you're gonna let those 10 seconds affect the rest 86,000, however many seconds that are left, or is it just gonna, or are you gonna let that just go away? And then I heard an analogy once. If you have $86,000 and you lose 10 of them, are you gonna drop the rest of the 86,000 and go find that 10, or are you gonna keep going with the best you can with the rest of the 86,000 and just leave the 10 go for the time being? So that's kind of what you should do with your time, and you know, just be flexible.
Yeah, I feel it appropriate to drop
Like
a
that.
Star Wars quote where I can,
Oh my.
right? And so that move, it was in the trailer. Like, this is not going to go the way you think, Luke Skywalker, and I believe it
Yes.
was
That's
the
college
second
humble.
of the new ones, which I can't even come up with. Oh, was it Last Jedi? Yeah, Last Jedi.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not going to go the way you think, right? And that's okay. And being flexible and giving yourself grace. Alex, you had another thing too.
I have two more things.
Oh, two more now. Nice.
Make money before you go to
Nice,
college.
yeah.
Because there's no money. I'm a broke college student. But do make a lot of money, or try to at least. And high school is completely different from
Absolutely.
college. In high school, I assume this is how it is for everyone, but you care about what people think. In college, that's not it. So just be yourself. And
Nice.
you'll make so many friends, because that's what's happened to me, and it's wonderful. Just be yourself. Don't care what other people think. Because
Yeah.
people will be weird in college. There are weird people, but it's really cool.
I was like,
to
and you're not
see.
even in Austin, and you're saying that. Yeah.
I'm so close to Austin. I think it like feeds into it.
Well, that's
But-
what I know. You mentioned the making money thing, and I know I told myself if I could go back and tell myself anything, it's like go deliver pizzas. You know, like go make the side
job.
money. Don't worry about the social. The social will happen when it
Yeah.
happens. Don't just rely on the on-campus jobs because they're not going to pay you what they say they're going to pay you.
Mm-mm.
And like, so
Nope.
go and make the extra cash because it's worth it. And
Yes.
focus on the studying. You'll figure out the social. Yeah,
Your
absolutely.
parents might give you money, but it'll
disappear
go
really quickly
right away. Because
It's not a limitless supply of money from
Yeah, I
home.
know, right?
Oh.
there's no money tree. There's no money tree.
No money tree.
Nope, no money
Some
tree.
people are hearing that for the very first time now.
Yeah, no, go make money.
And parents, as
And
you're
save
hearing,
your money. Don't
Save
spend it
your
all.
money.
Thank
Do
you.
not spend it on worthless crap. Sorry. Just don't. It's not. Spend it on food.
I'm going to record that.
Well, it's already
it home.
recorded, actually.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what parents, you're hearing advice here for your students, right? But I would advise you to have your student listen to this rather than going to your kid and being like, well,
Go make money.
go make money. You're not going to pick
Get a
on
job.
that. And
Be
things like- 'cause
flexible.
It's not gonna,
Be
yeah,
flexible.
Be flexible.
Don't
It's
care
not
about what
gonna
people think.
translate as well. Well, speaking of parents, what advice do you have for parents?
It'll be okay. It'll be
I mean,
okay.
I can't, from what I've seen from my parents and what they've done for me that I have appreciated, like I said earlier, was they let me kind of take the reins on what I was going to need and the way I was going to go about it. And taking those reins and taking the initiative to do it made the transition smoother. So they were there to support me, but I wasn't like relying on them. Okay, oh, my mom said I need this for my room and this for my room. Okay. And then I get to college. Mom, where'd you say this was supposed to go? So versus, and then make it on your time and your decision. So that's probably my biggest thing for parents is let your kid or whatever it may be make the decisions that they should do for the time building up at least. Obviously, you need to have the input from parents. You need to have the practical advice, the experience, and the love from it. But it's still good because they're most likely around 18 now, and so they're adults. And so,
Yeah. Well, from my experience of my car breaking down, I didn't have the help that I needed, and my dad was taking it really hard because he wasn't there to support me. So I'm thinking for parents to give those life lessons, I guess, before they go to college.
know how to change a tire.
I don't know how to do that still, but I know how to get a battery changed.
There you go.
And how to call, whatever it's called.
The practical advice.
The practical advice. Yeah, those basic life lessons that a college kid should know how to do, but they may not know how to do.
Sure, yeah.
So parents give life lessons.
That's awesome. No,
Yes,
that's
'cause
great.
I didn't know what I was doing, and I was freaking out. My dad was freaking out. Called
Being
him
able to
about-
jump a car is big too.
I didn't know how to do that.
I've used my jumper cables more times than I can count because they've just laid down and I'll be driving through the garage and I see somebody with their hood popped and I'll just come up behind them and I'll
My daughter does have jumper cables in her car.
I don't think I
I
do.
don't know if she knows how to use them, but she has them.
Red
I
to go.
didn't.
Maybe she
and
should
Red to
learn.
dead. First thing, red
Yeah.
to dead.
I know.
Red to dead? What
Red
does
to
that
dead. You
mean?
put the red one on the dead battery and then the
Yeah.
other one.
Ah,
and then you go to
there you
the
go, red
hot
to
one.
dead.
And then you put it on just a random piece of metal.
Now
ground
I
it
know.
out.
Yeah,
I didn't
ground.
even know that.
I know how to do that now because I had to jump my car.
There you go.
Fantastic.
There you go. So practical advice.
That's
too.
great.
Practical advice.
All right. So, I mean,
lessons.
obviously, sticky faith, that's been the conversation. So, like the church, and when we say the church, one of the big things we've seen in this is how important, as you guys experienced, right? Getting to watch you guys from 8th grade all the way now, freshman year of
Wow,
college. That's
that's-
crazy,
yeah.
right?
Church was life.
So being able to see the broader church walk alongside of you too, right? We're not just talking about staff, we're talking about the congregation and things like that. What advice do you have for the church when it is that sticky bridge out of home?
One thing Concordia did, which is not really the church, but it's kind of the same aspect that
Yeah.
I think is great for the church, was Concordia came to College Station and they
Oh yeah, no, I'm in touch with Brandenburg about
yeah,
that stuff.
that's exactly what
Yeah.
it is. And they came and they just gave us a day and just come and talk to us and
Well,
let us
so
know.
you're on the schedule. Like she was saying, I'm going out to other ones. Yeah.
They make their paths.
Okay. Salty.
15 minutes away, 3 hours away.
Day trip.
She's the last time I saw her, she's like, hey, I'm going to these other schools. You got to come with. I was like, okay.
Yeah, Pastor, you come.
Yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
seeing adults and seeing the people that I've grown up with, not grown up with, but went all through high school with,
Practically grown up with.
was actually really good. And just listening and hearing about how your day went, and knowing that they're still here for you and they're still praying for you. So that was one thing that I really appreciated. That kind of came from the church, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Alex?
What am I supposed to say?
I don't know what you're supposed to say.
Well, what
What's on
was
your
the
mind?
thing?
So it's about your advice for the church, like the broader church, like the family that you
church.
grew up with here.
I don't know. I just knowing that it's still there when I come home is like, it's really awesome because I'm always like, Mom, I want to go to church here. I want to go see like all my people
Yeah.
that I have had like literally growing up because I've been here since I've been a baby. And I think just the aspect of them like just staying there is awesome. Because like literally when I came home, I was like, Mom, I want to go to kids worship with you. I want to see all my little kids and Miss
And they
Cheyenne.
were so excited to see
No,
Alex
literally, I
on
was
Sunday.
like,
They were. It was great.
and just like, I don't know, seeing everyone and like, it's not like I haven't left. Because
Yeah.
they're like still approach you like, oh my gosh, what's up? And I'm like, yo,
It's cool because
you know what I mean?
the church, it's a physical place. I mean, we're here,
Yes.
but the church is also the people.
Yes.
And so having those people like you, like the kids, and I mean,
I love the kids.
the little people,
The little people, tiny humans.
and just having the people that you know as the church and who are the church
Mhm.
to come and still support you, even though there is distance in between you,
Yep.
is very meaningful.
Yeah.
Coming to a college student who's still trying to find out where they're
Yeah.
what's
'Cause
ahead.
Yeah.
So.
And like how I came home, Adam came home, Emma came home, and like you just see the people at the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we haven't left.
It's like we haven't left.
Even
Nothing's
though
changed.
nothing's
Except my hair got longer.
I dyed my hair.
And yours is darker.
No, that's awesome. No, and that's really good, like practical stuff. And again, I think the broader church needs to hear how meaningful they are for your life a lot
Absolutely.
of times. Because I think devil gets in
It's-
everybody's head,
yeah.
right? And certainly makes them feel like, oh, I'm not good enough to walk alongside of students or something like that. And again, your class was certainly the testament to how impactful the broader church was for
Mhm.
y'all's being raised up in the faith,
I
right?
hear about stars starting up again. And I've
Oh
been
my
texting. I've been
gosh.
texting
Yeah.
multiple people. Just like they text me asking, just maybe for a little bit of advice, maybe, but also just like, hey, just checking in on you. I know had stars and thought about you guys today, and so it's so cool to still see that ministry going.
Stars. Good old times.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So, guys, any other kind of final thoughts as we talk about this? The sticky bridge out of the home, like, or questions you want to offer to the podcast or anything like that about where your final thoughts are when it comes to sticky faith and what your journey, anything's left unsaid on your minds?
I guess, I mean, if you have a lot of things that are changing from pretty much July to August and that time of when you're moving. It's always good to find a constant, and it's always good to find something that's going to stay the same, even though you're changing physical positions, even though you're changing emotional positions, you're changing a lot of things, but still having that constant and being built up in that constant, being built up in the church, and having that strong backbone for when you get sent out there and you're about to go take that exam where the teacher's quiet. You got to be able to have that, what you need to have to get you through. And so I guess the most important thing is to get kids to have that strong backbone as they make this transition. So that way, when you're about to take that exam and you're being tested through college, you're still able to have something to fall back on. So making that constant.
Yeah. And I would say like stick with your faith because it'll help you through a lot of things. You might lose it every
You will
now and
question
then.
it.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's okay. You can question everything because life is a question, honestly. But always, for me, I've always falled back on Jesus and it helps so much. So just stick with it because there's no other way, honestly.
Yeah.
Because
dude.
you'll just feel lost the whole time. But Jesus will guide you.
You'll be
Trust in his
filled.
plan.
You'll be filled with other things
Yes, worldly
And-
things.
that are temporary.
Yep.
Your classic Sunday school lesson, but it's true.
Jesus is eternal.
Nice. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
And parents, I mean, they heard it last time too. Throughout this whole book, that's been the thing is like all humans, like that, students, kids, college students, certainly, we're all going to walk through those seasons where there's doubts and there's
Mhm.
questioning and things like that. And I actually remember y'all senior year, it was a videoed message I had to do, but it was on one of the first, I think it was the first chapter, 2 Peter. And it was about, question, ask all your questions because the truth
Yeah.
of God's going to stand. At the end of the day, go explore those questions as deeply as you can. Just return to the truth too. Allow
Yep.
God's voice to speak into those questionable conversations. And parents, as you hear that, I hope what you're hearing too is this is going to happen. And it doesn't mean people are running away from the faith or are going to worship Satan or something like that. It's just a natural part of life to ask questions and to be able to welcome those and to have that posture of grace and unconditional love, regardless of what things happen in college
Mm-hmm.
or high school,
Just
right?
makes you stronger.
Yeah. And just to have that posture for your kids is so important. Like for them to know that your love's not going to change in the same way that Jesus's love is not going to change based on questions or experiences or whatever. Like, and that's grace, right? That we get to experience.
Yeah, and as a mom, I think one of the things that I kind of kept hearing kind of over and over, and the things that both of you were saying was knowing that you had your parents' support, right? From
Yes.
high school through to college, kind of getting you ready. And then having that faith foundation from being at a church where you felt welcomed and involved. And I think that's huge for
Helps
parents
so
to
much.
remember that, you know what? One of the things that we learned very early on in this book was how much parents play a role in their
Oh,
kids'
yeah.
faith walk. And that, watching your parents, that the majority of kiddos, I mean, it was their parents that played that role, and reminding ourselves that, you know what, even though they don't always seem like they're watching and paying attention, they are, right? And
Mm-hmm.
knowing that your parent is there for you, and knowing that your church is there, having that faith, having that habit of worshiping and taking that along with you when you fly the nest.
Yeah, they're going to model you. I mean, you're going to get a mini version of yourself to some extent
Oh,
when you
that's kinda
raise
scary.
kids. I know, it's terrifying. And
It's
that's what
not.
dude,
It's cute.
I really do think that parents like really truly don't think that's going to be the case, but especially as kids get older, I'm like, I'm seeing you and your child, like I'm seeing it. Their mannerisms, the way they walk, the way they talk, like things like that. Like now I mean, we're all our own individuals, but I'm sure if you spent time with my parents, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's why Leah's the way that he is. So it's because we're all many versions of ourselves. So if parents of church is important for you, if Jesus is important for you, if he's a part of your life, chances are you're going to see that. And it's not a guarantee. Like we can say that honestly, it's not a guarantee, but it's a strong indicator, certainly, of sticky faith, as we've been able to kind of talk through. And the same thing of service and involvement and things like that. You're going to reflect what you see and what's raising you up. That should be the name of a podcast. Yeah.
Should be.
All right.
Raise 'em
So
up.
if you guys have any questions for us or comments, certainly visit our Facebook page. It's Raise 'em Up Podcast. Again, if you just look up Raise 'em Up, you'll get something different. But Raise 'em Up Podcast. And you can also email us at Raise 'em Up. That's RAISEEMUP. Raise 'em Up at trinitycline.org. And we'd be happy. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is fantastic. It brings a smile to my face and my heart being able to see you guys
great
and
to
to
be
talk
back.
to you guys.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Miss
Yeah.
Trinity.
So thankful for both of you and your willingness to come in and do this podcast, which you
Spill
both
my
kind of walked
secrets.
in blind today. So that's great.
Yeah.
And I think y'all did a great job too. So thank you guys for being with us. Jan, thank you for being with us again. And thank y'all for listening. And we'll be up next, Jan, with our final
I know.
chapter of Sticky Faith.
Can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's
and then we'll
crazy.
be on to the next
Something new and
conversation.
different.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, thank y'all for listening.